for Black writers and all their readers, and for audiences who are smart and free-thinking. Black Market Reads is a series of conversations highlighting the Black literary voices of today. Black Market Reads is produced by the Givens Foundation for African American Literature in partnership with iDream.tv.
Welcome to this episode of Black Market Reads. I'm your host, Lissa Jones. Today, we celebrate a milestone, our 100th episode. Over 100 conversations with Black writers, thought leaders, and storytellers, whose words challenge us, comfort us, and remind us of the beauty and brilliance within our communities. Since the beginning, this podcast has been more than a series of interviews. It's been an act of preservation, a space for truth-telling, and a living archive of Black imagination. It's been a gathering space, a living archive for the Black literary tradition, and a reminder that our stories matter. On behalf of the Givens Foundation for African American Literature, thank you. Thank you to our listeners, to the authors who've joined us, and to our partners who've believed in this vision, especially the Minnesota State Arts Board, Blue Cross Blue Shield of Minnesota, and Target Foundation. Over 10 seasons, Black Market Reads has grown into a chorus, over 100 voices, each telling a piece of our collective story. In this hour, you'll hear a mashup of authors reading live at Majors and Quinn booksellers, playwrights whose work lit up the Guthrie Theater, the astonishing sounds of Blackness, reflections from Dr. Frank B. Wilderson III, and sprinkled throughout notes of appreciation from authors and publishers. You'll also journey inside the Circle Unbroken, an exhibit from the Givens collection of African American literature and life, guided by curator Davu Seru. Let's begin with a few of those voices, our friends, our collaborators, our community, reflecting on what Black Market Reads means to them.
Being part of the Black Market Reads publishing panel was an honor. I appreciate the podcast for providing a platform where Black publishers can openly share both the challenges and the joys of uplifting our community stories. Preserving and promoting the voices of Black authors matters because our stories are more than books. They are legacy, resilience, and truth. Historically, the publishing industry has overlooked or minimized our voices, leaving gaps in representation and understanding. Each book by a Black author fills those gaps, affirming identity, inspiring future generations, and offering the broader world a fuller, richer perspective. By creating space for these conversations, Black Market Reads plays an important role in ensuring that Black voices are not just preserved, but celebrated and amplified for all to hear. I'm Mary Terrace, owner of Strive Publishing and Bookstore.
Hooray! Congratulations, Lissa, Edie, and Paul. 100 episodes. What an accomplishment. Thank you for giving Black writers a podcast to share their work with the world. Best to you. I'm Deborah Stone, author of The House on Rondo.
Before Black Market Reads had a name, before we had a podcast, before any of these 100 conversations, our story was already growing in the hands of the elders. This next moment comes from deep in our archives, a recording made before Black Market Reads officially began. Our elder, storyteller, and educator, Beverly Cotman, joined us to share the words of the incomparable writer, J. California Cooper. And what she shared still rings true today.
Welcome to this edition of Black Market Reads. I am Beverly Cotman. I am a storyteller, a teaching artist with the Givens Foundation for African American Literature. I am a lover of books and reading and a fan of Miss J. California Cooper. I had the enjoyable experience of being in the audience the afternoon of April 16th, 2011, for the Delta Sigma Theta Literary Luncheon, where we were educated, inspired, motivated, and challenged as Miss Cooper read from her works, clothed as always in her yellow and green muumuu, because, as she said, all of my characters fit in being here with me.
Here by popular demand, please join me in welcoming Miss J. California Cooper.
Now, this lady just showed up one morning. I don't know what I had been doing, but anyway, this morning I woke up and there she was. She said, I have always tried to do right and help people. It's a part of my community duty and my duty to God. But I can tell you right now, you don't never get no thanks for it, for nothing you do. My life ain't been no bed of roses either, but I still takes my time to do for others. Not one person has thanked me. She was mad too. I ain't feared of nothing but God and white folks. God, because he is the boss, and white folks, because they run this world and they don't know what they're doing. They don't talk sense. They don't talk sense. But I do try to help other people as my religious duty. See, I'll tell you, used to be a big old fat sloppy woman that lived right across the street, went to my church. She had a different man in the house with her every month. She got mad at me for telling the minister on her about all them men. Now I'm doing my duty. And she got mad. I told her somebody had to be the pillar of the communities. If it had to be me, so be it. She told me I was the pillar of the community and a lot of other things, but I told the minister that too. And pretty soon she was moving away. Good, because I like a clean community.
She answered some questions about her writing and her writing process and shared her very down-to-earth philosophy of life and living.
Well, you know, you have to do what you feel. I felt like writing, and that's what I wanted to do. If you're a writer, you will write. Just have something to say. I had something I wanted to say, how to not make mistakes and don't hold on to them, because if you change your life just that much, you could change your own life and some people around you. And so it was to learn. I liked wisdom. You know, when you're growing up and your mother whips you when you make a mistake, it hurts, you know. But when life whips you when you make that kind of mistake, you may never get up again. So you have to think, and also pay attention to wisdom. It isn't there for just nothing, so pay attention. And I love wisdom.
J. California Cooper reminds us that stories aren't just entertainment. They're guidance, legacy, and love. And we carried that intention forward into every conversation that followed. Some of our most powerful moments have happened not in our studio, but in the presence of community, surrounded by listeners, books, and laughter.
For the smart and free thinking, welcome to Black Market Reads.
I will just start out by saying, Ross Gay, hearing you read, delight.
Thank you.
I'm really delighted you're here. Thank you. Welcome to Black Market Reads.
Thank you.
That was a delightful series of readings. I just enjoyed myself immensely. Hearing you read it is so different than when I'm reading alone.
Great.
So let's start out first. Did you choose poetry or did it choose you?
What a good question.
Thank you. That's my gig.
I have no idea. Golly, I never thought of that. Well, sorry.
That's all
right. Stumped me.
Okay, why essays? You didn't decide to write a series of poems about delights. You decided to write essays.
It's something about the difference between the way a poem and knowledge works with me and the way an essay and knowledge works with me. My relationship to poems, I think, is more grounded in a kind of unknowing, to be oxymoronic and paradoxical. And these essays, I had a kind of premise, a kernel that was like, meditate on this thing for a given amount of time. Maybe it'll be something, maybe it won't.
Megan Giddings, author of The Women Could Fly, reminded us why art still matters.
Why do we make art right now? Why do we care so much about books when the world is on fire? It's the most human thing I can think of. People like making things. And there's something really reassuring right now about reminding myself that I'm a person, I'm connected to other people. And that's part of writing for me.
Wow. This is so insightful into your process of writing.
Oh, I love talking about writing. I mean, it's a little embarrassing sometimes to be a writer who says that because writing is so personal And it's simultaneously like this professional thing you do, but it's also picking at scabs or being kind of like privately gross sometimes. Like, you need it to be both things. It's just hard to balance.
Later that night, she said something that stuck with me.
When I feel really hopeless, I try to find a way to help someone else. It's also the only thing that makes writing worth doing to me sometimes when it's really hard to do.
Different night, same stage. Ricky Fain, author of The Devil 3 Times, reflected on the nature of spirituality.
Check, check. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Majors and Quint. Tonight, you will hear Ricky in conversation with Lissa Jones, the host of the Black Market Reads podcast.
Thank you.
Welcome, Ricky.
Thank you for having me.
Let me first start by saying thank you. I loved your book. It was so complex, much like humanity itself. Ricky, for our listeners who haven't had a chance to read your wonderful book, what's your book about?
It's pretty much following one Black family from the Middle Passage all the way up into the present. And this family is interesting because they have a spiritual sensitivity that's gifted to them by the devil to help them navigate American racism. I feel like it's a very Western culture thing to be like, this is the divine and this is the profane, and there's like a firm line and you have to be on one side or the other. It's more so about, this is what happens when we're in this space together and we love each other and we're being our true selves. We're going to invite the ancestors in. When I think about my family and when they felt the most free, it was here in this space. And it doesn't have to be related to a singular concept of Christianity. Matter of fact, if you talk to them for long enough, it might not even sound like Christianity after a while. You're just like, oh, okay, what do you mean? What spirit? You mean the Holy Spirit? No, just the Spirit. It's like, well, what are you talking about? Right? Like, it starts to shift a little bit.
Their words remind us that storytelling is community work, a conversation between writer and reader, author and audience.
Happy 100th episode, Black Market Reads. Hi, I'm Raquette CSR, the Executive Director for In Black Inc.
And I'm Anura CSR, publisher of Papyrus Publishing.
Black Market Reads has provided a powerful vehicle to amplify the voices of African American authors, and we so appreciate you.
100 voices, 100 episodes. Our voice is needed in this country and in this world. The space of Black people, African people are needed to balance out this discussion. And so thank you, Lissa and Edie, for all your hard work over these years. And again, happy 100th episode, Black Market Reads.
Some stories are meant for the stage, to be seen, heard, and felt. At the Guthrie Theater, playwrights Pearl Clegg and Lynn Nottage have created worlds that speak to who we are and who we can become. Pearl Clegg is an extraordinary novelist, performer, playwright, essayist, and poet. Her debut novel, What Looks Like Crazy on an Ordinary Day, was a New York Times bestseller and an Oprah's Book Club selection. Her play, Blues for an Alabama Sky, has been performed regularly for decades all over the world. Pearl Clegg, welcome back to Black Market Reads.
Oh, thank you so much. It's great to be back. Great to see you. Thanks for having me.
Are plays your favorite thing to write? Tell us more.
Plays are my favorite thing because with writing plays, you get the best of both worlds. And it's such an ancient form. I mean, it's a campfire. We sit in the dark around the campfire and we listen to someone tell us the stories of our tribe. And we've been doing that as humans forever. And you can call it theater, you can call it film, you can call it whatever. But what we do is tell stories to each other. We have to. There's no other way to know what's important, what's beautiful, what's courageous, what's brave, what's all of those things, except through the stories that we tell about each other.
And Lynn Nottage shares why she keeps putting Black women in the center. Welcome to this episode of Black Market Reads. I'm your host, Lissa Jones. In this episode, we meet playwright Lynn Nottage and draw upon her wisdom about humanity. Her play, Sweat, recently opened at the Guthrie Theater, and I had the pleasure of being in the audience. Lynn, I want to go back to something you said a minute ago because I don't want to let the wisdom pass. You are a 2-time Pulitzer Prize winner. You have plays and musical adaptations and operas and all kinds of things going on. And you said as a middle-aged Black woman, you feel invisible every day.
Yeah, I do feel very invisible. I had an encounter not so long ago at the airport where I bought a pack of gum and a magazine, and I was standing in line, and this white man literally stepped in front of me and began to pay, and I said, "Excuse me," and he turns back and he said, "Oh, I didn't see you there." And I can't tell you how often that happens where I can be in my full body standing somewhere and someone just does not see me on a multitude of levels. And so I'm aware that with all of the prizes and with all of the recognition, that I can go into the world and still have to deal with my relative invisibility because of who I am. And I think that's in part why I write and why I center Black women on the stage and why I choose to tell our stories, because it's a space in which I can put us right smack in the middle of the stage and weave our stories into the national mythology. And that's the power that I have. And the more of us that do that, the less invisible we become.
The power of the pen.
Yeah, the power of the pen.
Mm-hmm. On behalf of Black women everywhere, Lynn, I want to say thank you. At the Minneapolis Institute of Art, curator Esther Callahan helped create a breathtaking exhibit celebrating Black artists and voices. Through the galleries, the legendary Sounds of Blackness Choir performed, their voices rising through the artwork like prayer and praise. Keep on talking, marching till the day is done.
Happy 100th, Black Market Reads. This is Esther Callahan, independent curator and founder of the Black Collectors. It has always been important to center and amplify Black voices, but right now it feels especially urgent. So many of our stories are being challenged or erased, and our artists and authors are the ones holding the truth. For Black audiences, seeing ourselves reflected back is grounding. It reminds us that our lives and creativity matter. And for broader society, it's an invitation to listen more deeply and understand the full picture of who we are. That's why platforms like Black Market Reads are essential. They're preserving our stories in real time. I got to do a shout out to Lissa Jones, Powerhouse. Bringing her into the Minneapolis Institute of Art for a Black Market Reads event during Black History Month 2020 was pure magic. That is legacy work.
If you'd like to watch the full performance by Sounds of Blackness, along with extended interviews, you can find all of them at blackmarketreads.com. At Black Market Reads, our definition of literature is vast, wide, and ever-changing. If you'd like to hear what that sounds like, here's a little piece of my interview with poet and librettist Douglas Kearney.
Is what the wanted, unwanted don't want. We are overcome. We are come. Not free someday, someday. Oh, deep in the hole, we are deep in the hole. We are deep in the, we are all afraid. Walloped up into dream upended and marched into hound's tooth of knit elbows or garden of a million clenched buds. The doubled vox redoubles into synced redoubt and sinks into that old silencing right.
Hey y'all, this is Douglas Kearney, and I was featured on Season 5, Episode 2 of Black Market Reads. Lissa talked to me a lot about a project that is an opera written in a counterfeit language that I developed out of Afro-diasporic linguistic practices and a little bit of German syntax. That was the first time I'd really been able to have a long, extended conversation about it, and Lissa's questions and interest were so galvanizing that it was really special and important to me. So yeah, and that opera is called Ben Bannock, and it's in a kind of hard to get book called Someone Took Their Tongues. But that was just a special moment to me, as that was a project that I made really thinking deeply about Black linguistic practice and what does it mean to have it heard and read. So thank you, Lissa. Thank you, Black Market Reads. And thank y'all for listening.
Black Market Reads is a series of conversations highlighting the Black literary voices of today.
What if I'm tired of the same thing for 401 years? What if I don't want to do this anymore? What if I want something new from you? Join me in this episode of Black Market Reads as we sit with author Claudia Rankine to examine her latest work, Just Us, An American Conversation. I'm your host, Lissa Jones.
What does it mean to want an age-old call for change, not to change, and yet also to be bullied by the call to change? How is a call to change named shame, named penance, named chastisement? How does one say, what if, without reproach? The root of chastise is to make pure. The impossibility of that. Is that what repels and not the call for change? What if what I want from you is new, newly made? A new sentence in response to all my questions. A swerve in our relation and the words that carry us, the care that carries. I am here, without the shrug, attempting to understand how what I want and what I want from you run parallel. Justice and the openings for just us.
That was a reading from author Claudia Rankine from her new book, Just Us, An American Conversation. You go down there looking for justice. That's what you find. Just Us. Richard Pryor. Claudia Rankine, welcome to Black Market Reads.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I love it. Just Us, an American conversation. Why an American conversation, and what do you mean by just us?
Well, I wanted that just us one to phonically bring forward justice, and then the question of who gets that justice. Does justice mean that only white people have the justice? Or does justice mean that Black people are the people who the justice system works against? Which I think is what Richard Pryor was intimating in his quote. So I love the fluidity of that and the intimacy of it. I mean, just us could be you and me and in conversation. And I do think that change comes one at a time. I mean, revolution might change laws, but how do you get people to change in themselves? And I think it's through that one-to-one conversation. So I wanted that.
You know, I love that. And I'm thinking about what if. Your opening reading. You call us to imagine something different. What if I want something new from you? What if I'm tired of this old thing, 400 years, this thing around my neck?
Yes. I think the protests this summer, the response to those protests has been new. A commitment to a shift in the structures that continue anti-Blackness in this country in order to create equity for all. And we'll see how much sharing is possible going forward. But that's the ask. How do you create equity? It means that you share resources. And so we'll see.
This is Jeff Schatz, executive editor at Grey Wolf Press. The Givens Foundation has long gathered and preserved essential Black writers, and Black Market Reads has amplified them in astounding ways. As African American voices are being suppressed, banned, and threatened in all the new old ways, it is as ever crucial for them to be supported and heard. All of us at Grey Wolf Press have been grateful to Black Market Reads for making an important place for conversation and solidarity with Danez Smith, Claudia Rankine, and many others in Minneapolis and well beyond. A mighty congratulations to Black Market Reads on their 100th episode.
Congratulations to our friends at Black Market Reads on your 100th episode. It's been such a joy working alongside you to share the voices of Black writers like Tyann Coleman, Keith Mays, Jody Lulich, Carolyn Holbrook, and Dr. Bill Green, authors whose words challenge, teach, and inspire. Your work reminds us why storytelling and books matter, and we're honored to be a part of your journey. I'm Heather Skinner, Publicity Director, University of Minnesota Press.
Black Market Reads has been more than a podcast. It's been a sanctuary for stories that too often live at the margins. It's a place where our stories are celebrated and not flattened. Our narratives, whether tender, furious, or visionary, deserve to be heard in their full humanity. Black Market Reads reaffirms that our stories are not only worthy of preservation, but essential to understanding the world as it is and as it might be. This is Jody Lulich, author of In the Company of Grace.
We couldn't celebrate our 100th episode without returning to one of our most powerful voices. And one of our most downloaded guests joined us to reflect on how his thinking has evolved since his book's release and what it means to speak of Blackness in a world that still resists the truth of our humanity.
Recording in progress. Stand by in 3, 2, 1, action.
I'm thrilled to be speaking with author and scholar Dr. Frank B. Wilderson III about his latest work, Afro-Pessimism. From his youth in Minneapolis to apartheid South Africa and beyond, Dr. Wilderson has been a committed activist for radical social change. His creative, scholarly, and critical work has been published internationally. He's the author of several books, including Incognegro, Memoir of Exile and Apartheid, and Red, White, and Black.
So what we've argued is that, just like all the other positions, critical theorists have not looked at hard enough is the way in which this category called the human is actually a constructed position also. And to have a position and know what it is, and know what its capacities are, you can only do that at the end of the day by knowing what it is not. So worker is not boss. Woman is not man. Colonial native is not colonial settler. Indigenous person is not European immigrant. And so the human is actually structured in contradistinction to the slave. We have argued that Blackness is a word that does not exist before the world decides that Africa is the place of slaves. What exists before Blackness is Maasai, Buganda, Kikuyu, Lulu, Ashanti, Zulu, Ndebele. But there are no blacks before this. And so it's also connected with the violent power of state and civil society to make the fantasy real. And what we have found is that everywhere you go, even people of color who are discriminated, they know that there's a cliff that they cannot fall off of. They cannot fall out of humanness into Blackness. And that gives everyone of all colors except Black people a sense of relief. We live in a crazy realm of violence that doesn't look like anyone else's. And Afro-pessimism analyzes that.
This is fantastic. This is absolutely revolutionary thought, and I see why we're talking about it being controversial. If people could see my face, it is resonating in my spirit.
So in other words, we're always checking ourselves to see how are we behaving, how are we looking, as though our unconscious mind sees ourselves as problems before we enter into our white space. And the unconscious, no matter what we say, or how many dashikis we wear, or how we do our hair, our conscious mind is saying, yeah, right on, Black power, we can be ourselves, but our unconscious mind is anxious all the time about every encounter we have with our non-Black associates. And this is what makes raising Black children so difficult, because you cannot tell a Black child what are the rules. You cannot say, here's how you can tom out so that you don't get a beat down or get shot. It doesn't work like that. But the fact of the matter is, you cannot teach a Black child how to be good and docile to avoid the kind of violence that George Floyd got.
Join the conversation. For more great content about authors you love, visit us at blackmarketreads.com.
Frank reminds us that behind every theory is a lived experience, and behind every lived experience, a story. Here in Minneapolis and around the world, the story changed forever with the murder of George Floyd. In the months that followed, a group of poets gathered their voices into a collection titled Can't Stop, Won't Stop. 9 writers responding in real time to grief, rage, uprising, and the insistence that Black life must be seen and valued. Here are 2 of them, Mary Moore Easter and Bernard James, reflecting on what it meant to write in that moment.
The murder of George Floyd at the hands of the police and the surrounding social upheaval cry out in this concentrated collection of poems. Minnesota Black poets of 3 generations sing their grief, resistance, and heart-bruised love in this time of turmoil. They call out what's lost, how circumstances repeat through time, and the national consequences we shoulder. Varied acts of language invoke the natural world of ants, birds, and bumblebees, of Carolina Reaper peppers and sour fruit gone straight to rot. They name the contested soil of our streets, highways, and neighborhoods, even as they search for the comfort of a home. In the face of endangered bodies, they assert belonging. We made ourselves a home and call for breath to fill a single set of lungs and to sustain a whole people.
Welcome to this edition of Black Market Reads. I'm your host, Lissa Jones. I'm in studio today with Mary Moore Easter and Bernard James. Welcome, Mary, and welcome, Bernard.
Thank you, Lissa.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to have you both here. Let's start out this segment talking about the chapbook you just read from, Mary.
Immediacy is what we were looking for, an immediate response, not a poem that might fit, that you written several years ago, but what was happening in the hearts and in the writing of Black poets right now. We could have made another book of 9 other Black poets and another book of 9 other Black poets and another book of 9 other Black poets.
Every one of you showed up just brilliantly. Thank you. Thank you. Bernard, you're one of those poets, one of those 9 poets in Can't Stop, Won't Stop.
Yes.
Would you start out by giving us a reading?
Yes, I'd like that. I lived just 2 blocks west from where they killed him, before turnover pushed a speedway from the womb of a 7-Eleven, where we pooled young money for candy bars and gas, extracting 20s from the narrow ATM, watching each other's backs for Applejack, before crack had a chance to kill him. Careful to avoid the patrols, unwilling to donate more Black blood to stain cracks and crevices of South Minneapolis streets, which lack the absorbency typically found in cotton and tobacco soil. On the outer banks of Greater Powderhorn, sandwiched between Sabathani and the lake, our turf on 38th, dissected at regular intervals by Chicago, Portland Park. Friends of the North Side, but proud of our side.
You know, you're reading this poem about a neighborhood I've been in a billion times, intersected by Park in Portland. What was it like to have lived in that neighborhood and then to return there after the murder of George Floyd?
It's hard to describe. Thankfully, Mary gave me the opportunity to think about it and write about it, because this poem, for me at least, distills the mindset that I had that day when I learned about the murder, and then the weeks that followed with the upheaval and the protest and the fires and the destruction. You know, when I moved here, I had no family here in the Twin Cities. I was a young kid right out of undergrad, just sort of feeling my way through the beginnings of adulthood. I embraced the idea that I lived in Powderhorn. You know, that was my spot. Thinking back on it, I romanticized this period, but in the wake of the murder, it caused me to reflect about the space that I inhabit and the relative amount of privilege that I carry. And the fact that a lot of people that look like me don't wield that same privilege. And it took me back to that time and place as a young man. This poem, for me, it's a love song as well as an elegy at the same time. And that's the best way I can describe what this period meant for me, reliving it.
I just want to sit with that. That is powerful. Place, home. In Mary's editor note, she said, we created a home. We made a home. And for Black people, a home is so powerful and necessary. Talk about that, please, Mary. You're shaking your head.
You really drew out the essential thing about it. You know, as a people, we were torn from our homes and made to accept, under horrifying circumstances, this new home. And so there's a sense in which the whole race is trying to reconcile that in order to feel at home and to claim all the life that's happened since that tearing. I mean, you just can't stay in the tearing away 400 years ago. How do you get up and go to work the next morning today if that's where you have to stay?
These poets gave us witness, they gave us memory, and they gave us language when our city was in pain. Language that helps us remember, and language that helps us imagine what healing might look like. In seasons 9 and 10, Black Market Reads received support from Blue Cross Blue Shield of Minnesota. In one of our most healing conversations, Dr. Gail C. Christopher, author of RX Racial Healing, A Guide to Embracing Our Humanity, spoke about the power of literature to bring people together.
So I guess in my wildest dreams and imaginations, people would read the book, they would be convinced that there's some validity to the experience, and then they would want to engage people in the experience. We've got to bring people together, diverse people together, and engage them in this curated process of experiencing a deeper connection to people that they perceive as different from themselves.
Part of what struck me about the book was that it didn't just say, here's what's wrong. It said, here's how to make it right. And that is so critical because oftentimes I'm left thinking, okay, well, now what? And you said, well, this is what, and got concrete. I really deeply appreciate that.
Congratulations to Black Market Reads on achieving your 100th episode. Black literature is so important to our journey for freedom and justice. I was honored to have been invited to be a guest in 2025. The podcast was well distributed, and it really helped me to spread the word about the importance of racial healing to our country at this time. I wish you the best. I hope the podcast expands and continues. I am Gail Christopher, author, RX Racial Healing, A Guide to Embracing Our Humanity.
The work of Black Market Reads is inseparable from the mission of the Givens Foundation to preserve, promote, and celebrate African American literature. To mark both our 100th episode and the 40th anniversary of the Givens Collection at the University of Minnesota, we invite you to experience something truly special, a place where voices of the past meet the promise of the future. If you'd like to see the artifacts and visuals mentioned in this segment, you can watch the full video tour on our website at blackmarketreads.com. Here's Davu Underwood Seru, curator and scholar, guiding us through a tour of the Circle Unbroken.
Welcome to the Circle Unbroken, an exhibit that celebrates the 40th anniversary of the Givens Collection of African American Literature and Life here at Elmer Anderson Library. This exhibit allows us an opportunity to celebrate and honor the elders and the ancestors that are responsible for having marshaled their resources to make sure that this cultural treasure would be brought to the Twin Cities for the community of researchers here on campus, but also the broader community off. The structure of the Circle Unbroken is inspired by another performance tradition, the ring shout. It is organized in a circle, a ring. You move counterclockwise through the exhibit. As you enter the gallery, you pass through a gate where there is a poem about the Sankofa bird, which the Akan of Ghana take as a symbol representing a value system. Go back and get it. It is a bird with its beak pointed backwards toward the past, but its body is facing the future. And so with this exhibit, we go back to the early days of the collection some 40 years ago to try to understand who was there, what they were about, and what they would do ultimately with the collection. A collection of forces who would come together under the leadership of Dr. John S. Wright, Professor Emeritus of African American Studies, my teacher, who is himself an alum of the University of Minnesota and was in 1969 a part of the Moral Hall takeover. And so we count the coming of the Givens Collection to the university in 1985 as a part of the legacy of student activism in 1969, which John Wright was a central part of. And so the first case of the circle honors John Wright. The second, the Patrons Council, 11 families, African-American families who by 1985 were enterprising leaders in this community who would put up the money to reimburse the university who had secured the collection. And then they organized and got involved in developing an organization that would help get the collection out into community, making it more accessible. In 1985, there was an event that would dedicate the collection in the honor of Archie Givens Sr., a beloved member of the African American community, born in North Minneapolis in 1919, photographer Gordon Parks, who had lived in the Twin Cities in the 20s or 30s, came back as part of the dedication of the collection and is photographed here by Walter Griffin that night where the collection was dedicated. So this case tells the story of the Givens Foundation, who has been the leading partner with the Givens Collection, which is part of University of Minnesota Libraries, Archives, and Special Collections. What we have on display here is an illuminated Bible, the Book of Moses, illustrated by Jacob Lawrence, the great modernist painter. So after a gathering of the circle, which describes the gathering of a community to bring the collection to the university, we have a section titled The Harmonies in Their Call, which describes what they did with the collection once it was here. And so the second section here shows some of what they did, which includes reprint series of older, historically significant works by African-American authors like Frederick Douglass, W.E.B. Du Bois, Arna Bontemps, and Harriet Jacobs. The other part of the next section also talks about how the Advisory Council, under the leadership of Dr. John S. Wright, would get busy developing curriculum for pre-K through 12 teachers. This case, to my right, features perhaps their most prized accomplishment, and that was an exhibit on the Harlem Renaissance. A Stronger Soul Within a Finer Frame would travel the United States for about 3 years and reach over 2 million people. So in addition to curriculum guides and reprints of historically significant works by African-American authors, the Givens Foundation, working with the collection, would be responsible for perhaps the most popular event associated with the collection, and that is the NOMO African-American Authors Series, which enlivened by bringing living authors to campus for a public audience, authors like Quincy Troop, Sonia Sanchez, Trisha Rose, Angela Davis, who would come and talk with writer Alex Pate about their works and about the broader significance of their works in the context of African-American literary life. And this experiment with technology has led to a more recent Givens Foundation product, Black Market Reads, which this presentation is a part of. The last case in this section features two projects of the Advisory Council. Ask Your Mama, 12 Moods for Jazz, which is an epic poem that Langston Hughes published in the 1960s and set to music, but was never performed anywhere until the 1990s when John Wright, working with an ensemble here that was part of the Jazz Studies program led by Reginald Buckner, put the show on the road for a series of engagements, which culminated in a performance at Carnegie Hall. The second project in that case features a Black Mystery Writer Symposium, which was hosted here at the University of Minnesota in 1996, and it was the first of its kind to gather the living Black mystery writers in the United States. So as we make our way around the circle counterclockwise, we land at the third section, the response. This section focuses on works produced by authors who use the Gibbons collection in the production of these new publications. The second case in this section focuses around Hope in the Struggle, the memoirs of Josie R. Johnson, whose papers are a part of the Gibbons collection. The last case in this section features two works, Blues Vision, which is an anthology of African-American writing from Minnesota, which bears a cover by our dear elder Tacumba Aiken, and then a second anthology, A Darker Wilderness, which is an anthology of African-American nature writing edited by Aaron Sharkey. Supporting those two works are works from the collection that are either anthologized, historic works like Gordon Parks's A Choice of Weapons, his memoir, which is in part set in the Twin Cities, and at WebTool on Research African-American History, which makes the collection and collections like it throughout the country accessible to researchers who have access to the internet through a search tool that is very much like Google, but is centered on African-American history. At the center of our circle is a three-tiered case, which at its bottom features the artifactual evidence of the business of slavery. We have a ledger from a plantation in Jamaica from 1834, a check in the amount of $1,400 for the purchase of one Negro slave, moving up one level. We have the beginnings of a prose tradition in African-American letters, the slave narrative tradition. First edition of Frederick Douglass's My Bondage and My Freedom from 1855, a narrative of William Wells Brown, a fugitive slave from 1847, a first edition of Sojourner Truth's The Northern Slave, published in 1850. One level above, the top, the major inspiration from the show is the first work of African-American literature to be published in book form. Phyllis Wheatley's Poems on Various Subjects, Religious and Moral, published in 1773 by an enslaved teenager. Wheatley is the gem of this vast ocean. She is the Black Madonna, the archive that issues forth this tradition of letters. All the rest you see here in the circle comes from this book as a watershed moment in a tradition of African-American literature. This is the beginning of a tradition of African-American letters, which the Patrons Council, working with John Wright and the Gibbons Foundation, has taken up the business of carrying forward into the future for us. What I hope this exhibit demonstrates is continuity in the form of a circle, not a straight line. We use the best from the past to move forward, but we are connected the whole time as a part of a tradition that is loving and caring and confrontational. It must confront the past in order to move healthfully into the future. There is a great need to sustain that work under current threats posed today. We need everybody. I'm Davu Underwood Seru, curator of the Gibbons Collection. Congratulations to Black Market Reads on your 100th episode. You are the evidence, like this collection is the evidence. Documenting our activities, our presence, what we've been up against, and how we've overcome it. Let's keep going.
Yes, let's keep going. And in the spirit of affirmation, we asked Dr. Wilderson to comment on the importance of podcasts like Black Market Reads.
Well, now you know my answer to that. Y'all are a godsend. I mean, really.
As we close this 100th episode of Black Market Reads, I want to thank every listener, author, publisher, and friend who made this possible. From our first episode to this one, we've learned that stories are how we remember, but also how we imagine. They are the blueprint for our collective liberation. Here's to the next 100 episodes. Here's to every word, every page, and every voice still to come. I'm your host, Lissa Jones. This is Black Market Reads. Thank you for listening. We'll see you again next time. This episode was created by co-producers Lissa Jones and Edie French, technical director Paul Augustin, the voice of Yo Derek, and our artist of inspiration, Tacumba T. Aiken. Black Market Reads is a co-production of the Givens Foundation for African American Literature and iDream.tv. Be sure to visit blackmarketreads.com, where you can hear all 100 episodes and find go deeper information about the authors and the topics explored.